Dillian the Body Snatcher Whyte. Now, I want to break this down for this IFL TV post. Shout out to them for making this known, okay? For posting this information for us. And these are the fighters that Dillian Whyte fought. And of course, the first one is Anthony Joshua. I think that fight ended in, round 9 or 10. Good fight, high-spirited fight, mini riot. And I think at the beginning of the end of the first round or second round, it was okay, 0-2 sellout. So it was a great fight. Two undefeated fighters. Him and AJ went in there. You know, he was up because he beat AJ in the amateurs, and it was something to see. But it was a very interesting fight. Even though he lost, he still threw those bows. Derek Chisora, very tough fight. 23 rounds of hell because he did it twice. First fight went the distance where some people thought that he lost, but, you know, he convinced the judges that he did win and he pulled out the victory, okay? And the crazy thing was he sealed the deal on the second fight. So by knocking out Derek Chisora as they traded left hooks, which another fight that was good, very good fight. And I think that pretty much gave him more stripes as well. Joseph Parker, which I think this is a very underrated fight. A lot of people by this time, though, were quite known about Dillian Whyte and the things that he was capable of. His stock was definitely rising as the WBC interim heavyweight champion. And Joseph Parker, of course, just lost the WBO in a unification bout to Anthony Joshua that same year, taking his first loss. So he goes back in there with Dillian Whyte, catches a left hook out of this world, gets up from that, and they bang on, and he catches Dillian Whyte in the last round, I believe. And it was a very, very interesting fight. Now, they could have ran it back, honestly, because I think that's one of those fights that warranted a rematch if you were going to do it, or if they had no other fighters to fight. That was a good one. But still, you know, former WBO champion beat him. Lucas Brown, convicted drug cheat, all right? And he was undefeated at the time, was knocked out by Dillian Whyte. Dillian Whyte caught this boy with a beautiful combination. That left hook was too legit to quit. Took him on, you know. Oscar Rivas. Now, this was a very interesting fight, and I think this is one of the best wins for Dillian Whyte. But it was bittersweet. The fight was actually assigned to Tyson Fury for the diamond belt. Tyson Fury passed on it. Dillian Whyte went to pick it up, won the diamond belt by beating Oscar Rivas, suffering an uppercut knockdown in the 9th round, right? Fighting a tough game, Oscar Rivas. I think that Oscar Rivas was a guy that I think he needed better training, but he was probably as tough as they came. And Dillian Whyte didn't have to fight him, but he stepped up to fight him, you know. Now, the bitter part, because that was the sweet, the bitter part of that was the adverse finding, and I think the A sample. But I think the B sample showed a different result. So he was off the hook, but it still raised eyebrows. But most importantly, the side of Oscar Rivas, you know, they complained outside of the ring, but inside of the ring, Dillian Whyte did his thing. Bars. So it was a very good fight, very memorable fight. Again, sellout crowd, did his thing. Alexander Povkin. Okay, this is a year later after the Rivas fight. Povkin, of course, you know, had his own issues with the PEDs and that situation. He went on then to fight him, and the fight was, of course, in COVID, so we didn't really have the crowd reaction And actually, it was in Eddie Hearn's backyard, so he concocted a ring and everything like that. So that's where it was at. That's where the venue was, in the residence of Eddie Hearn. And the fight was going well. Dillian Whyte was showing that jab that I think he was very underrated for, throwing those combinations, ripping left hooks and right hooks, dropping Povkin several times in that fight. Round 5, all it takes is one shot. And that one shot, Povkin did land, knocking Dillian Whyte out cold, having everybody like, right? So it was one of those fights where, again, Povkin was a guy that only got beat by Joshua and Vlad, and not in that order, okay? So this guy was definitely game. Now, he did get his revenge by fighting Povkin again. But the problem was, Povkin, I don't feel, was up to that challenge, because I think that he was definitely, injured or compromised from the COVID, because he had contracted COVID because it was COVID season. And he was very, very sick, I believe. And he wasn't the same guy. Nonetheless, nearly dead man walking, got dropped and taken out of the equation, retiring Alexander Povkin. Okay. Next, Tyson the Gypsy King Fury. And a lot of interesting drama stirred up around this fight. You didn't see Dillian Whyte for the press conferences. You didn't see Dillian Whyte, really promoting the fight. He was threatened to be sued by Frank Warren. It was real nasty. You know what I mean? But nonetheless, he finally got his opportunity at the WBC, the one that I feel that Wilder or Mauricio should have made Wilder give him. He finally got that opportunity. Big up for Tyson Fury for finally doing that. But, he took the fight, got caught with that same kryptonite shot, the uppercut, which is his, Achilles heel. And he got dropped in the 6th round. He wasn't out cold, which was probably one of the worst live performances that I ever had. But he was stopped in the 6th round, taking on Tyson the Gypsy King Fury. After that, it was Germaine Franklin in a tough fight, okay? And it was a fight that people didn't want to see, but people respected Germaine Franklin. And because they respected his performance, they let Dillian Whyte off the hook a bit. Because not only did Germaine Franklin give him a game performance, he also gave Anthony Joshua a game performance as well. So, he proved to be tougher than a lot of people thought, being an undefeated fighter as well. So, a lot of these guys, Lucas Brown, Oscar Rivas, Germaine Franklin, once beaten Joseph Parker, a lot of those guys were undefeated. Okay, so, including Moses Atoma. Okay, that's his last fight and challenge, where he was unfortunately stopped in 1 round. However, this was Moses Atoma, which, has very, very high potential. And people like Derek Chisora, also on the list, didn't want to fight him. Like Tyson Fury, also on the list, didn't want to fight him. So there was a lot of things that Dillian Whyte chose to do and didn't need to do. Okay, so like Danny Dubois says, put some respect on my name. I think we should do the same for Dillian, the Body Snatcher Whyte. But you guys tell me what you think of the resume of Dillian Whyte. Of course, please subscribe. And you guys been Counterpunch. Peace.